Hello developers, so let's start 2023 with the release of Flutter 3.7. In Flutter 3.7, we as a community continue to improve the framework with the addition of some great new features such as the ability to create custom menu bars, cascading menus, tools to better support internationalization, new debugging tools, and much more. Enhanced Material 3 support. Material 3 support has been greatly enhanced in 3.7 with the migration of the following widgets. To use these new features, just turn on the Use Material 3 flag in your application's theme data widget. To take full advantage of M3 support, you will want a complete M3 color scheme. You can provide your own, use the new Theme Builder tool, or Flutter can generate one for you from a single seed color using the color scheme seed parameter of the theme data constructor. Menu bars and cascading menus. Flutter can now create menu bars and cascading context menus. For Mac OS, create a menu bar using the Platform Menu Bar widget, which defines platform native menu bars rendered by Mac OS instead of Flutter. And, for all platforms, you can define a material design menu that provides cascading menu bars or standalone cascading menus triggered by another user interface element. These menus are fully customizable, and the menu items can be custom widgets, or you can use the new menu item widgets. Impeller Preview. The team is pleased to announce that the new Impeller rendering engine is ready for preview on iOS on the stable channel. We believe the performance of Impeller will meet or exceed the Skia renderer for most apps, and as for fidelity, Impeller implements all but a small number of rarely used corner cases. We expect to make Impeller the default renderer on iOS in a forthcoming stable release, so please continue to file Impeller feedback on GitHub. While we are increasingly confident that Impeller on iOS will meet the rendering needs of nearly all existing Flutter apps, there are still a few gaps in API coverage. The small number of remaining gaps are listed on the Flutter Wiki. Users might also notice minor visual differences in rendering between Skia and Impeller. These minor differences might be bugs, so please don't hesitate to file issues. We continue to make progress on a Vulkan backend for Impeller, but Impeller on Android isn't yet ready for preview. Android support is under active development, and we hope to share more about it, with more news about support for desktop and web in future releases. iOS Release Validation. When you release an iOS app, a checklist of settings to update ensures that your app is ready for submission to the App Store. The Flutter build IPA command now validates some of these settings and informs you if there are changes that should be made to your app before release. DevTools updates. In this release, there are several new tooling features and overall improvements to try out. The DevTools memory debugging tool has undergone a complete overhaul. There are 3 new feature tabs, Profile, Trace, and Diff, that support all the previously supported memory debugging features and added more for your debugging ease. Custom context menus. You can now create custom context menus anywhere in a Flutter app. You can also use them to customize the built-in context menus. For example, you could add a Send Email button to the default text selection toolbar that shows up when the user has selected an email address. See the Context Menu Builder parameter, which has been added to existing widgets that show a context menu by default, like Text Field. You can return any widget you want from Context Menu Builder, including modifying the default platform adaptive context menu. CupertinoListSection and CupertinoListTile widgets. Thanks to the efforts of the GitHub user Kampovsky, Cupertino has 2 new widgets, CupertinoListSection and CupertinoListTile, for showing a scrollable list of widgets in the iOS style. They are the Cupertino versions of ListView and ListTile in Material. Scrolling improvements. Several scrolling updates have arrived with this release. Polish and refinement for trackpad interactions, new widgets like scroll bars and draggable scrollable sheet, and improved handling for text selection within scrolling contexts. Notably, macOS apps will now experience higher fidelity with the addition of new scrolling physics to match the desktop platform. New animated grid and sliver animated grid widgets animate items added to a list. Global selection improvements. Selection area now supports keyboard selections. You can extend an existing selection with keyboard shortcuts such as Shift plus right. Text magnifier. The magnifying glass that appears during text selection on Android and iOS now works in Flutter. This is enabled out of the box for all apps with text selection, but if you want to disable or customize it, see the magnifier configuration property. iOS PlatformView BackdropFilter. We've added the ability for native iOS views to be blurred when rendered underneath a blurred Flutter widget, and UIKit view widgets can now be wrapped inside a backdrop filter. Memory management. This release introduces a few improvements to memory management that have the collective effect of reducing jank caused by garbage collection pauses, reducing CPU utilization due to allocation velocity and background GC threads, and reducing the memory footprint. Font asset hot reload. Previously, adding new fonts to the pubspec.yaml file required rebuilding the application to see them, unlike other asset types that could be hot reloaded. Now changes to the font manifest, including additions of new fonts, can be hot reloaded into an application. Reduce animation jank on iOS devices. Thanks to open source contributions from Luckysm, 2 improvements have reduced animation jank on iOS. In particular, the addition of a dummy CA display link on the main thread during gestures now forces refreshes at the max refresh rate.